All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening for another installment in our career panel series. Tonight, we'll be talking about the technology industry with two young USM alums. We have with us this evening Kyle Kaliebe, who is from the USM class of 2003. He completed his Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science at Case Western Reserve University in 2006. And he's held technical and business-focused positions in a wide range of company sizes and industries, including finance, healthcare, education, sales, parking, real estate, and event planning. These include Isaacs Parking, Ohio Link, The Ohio State University, Ohio Health, various nonprofits and startups, and he's currently a senior software consultant with the Crescendo Collectiv, which is a digital marketing company. We also have joining us this evening Hannah Lubar from the USM class of 2010, and she's a program manager at Meta, formerly Facebook, working in the newsfeed integrity space. She is the operations expert on a team that works to make the Facebook app a more safe and uplifting space for users by reducing bad experiences and problematic or low quality content on newsfeed. Prior to Facebook, Hannah was a consultant with Accenture Strategy after graduating from Brown University in 2014. So we'll open it up to discussion right now. And Kyle, I will ask you to begin. Could you tell us a little bit about your current role and day-to-day responsibilities?
Yeah, so like Mrs. Zarwell said, I work for Crescendo Collectiv. This is a company that is located in downtown Milwaukee, but since the pandemic, we've sort of branched out to hiring across the entire country, actually across the entire world. We have a satellite office in Manila, actually. So, but it is focused on digital marketing. The main thing we do is we consult with companies to implement content management systems. So the most mundane example of which would be something like WordPress, which you can always just do on your own to make a website. Content management systems are softwares that go behind websites that help you to manage a large amount of content and deploy it in different ways to a website. And so we work on a open source enterprise version of that, which is called Magnolia. If you want to look it up, anyone can actually download it and play with it. But on a day-to-day basis, as a consultant, I'm attached to one or more of the clients that our company has a contracts with. So right now, my two big clients are a large finance company and then a large pharmaceutical company, both with international focus. I can't specifically say who they are because I didn't get permission from either of them to even imply that I'm representing them. But yeah, for now, we'll just say large pharmaceutical and large finance. And on a day-to-day basis, I'm on various what we call Scrum teams. So it's a bunch of developers that get together that have a bunch of projects for that company assigned to them, and every morning we decide how we're going to break up the work. And we work in we break up the work into chunks that can be done in 2 weeks. So every morning we say what we did the day before, we say what we're going to do the next day, and we work out problems as a team. So and yeah, I'm on one of those teams for each company. So yeah, it's just every day it's a different problem from a different industry, and that's the magic of being in more of a consulting role rather than working directly for the company. It's not our product; it's other companies' products that we work on. So I don't know if that's a good enough intro, but yeah, that's
very helpful. So
yeah.
Thank you. All right. So Hannah, you're not working as a consultant, but can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day operations and what that's like? And are there any similarities?
Absolutely. So I am an operations program manager on a newsfeed integrity team at Facebook. Our team is made up of a bunch of different types of roles. We have engineers, we have product managers, data scientists, researchers, policymakers, and operations specialists like myself, all on a team working together. And our goal is to make the Facebook app a safer, more positive space for users by reducing low quality content on newsfeed. So more specifically, what that means is we build machine learning models to reduce the distribution or downrank in newsfeed, low quality or problematic posts, so that users see less of it. in order to do that in an automated way so that our machine learning models are just like automatically reducing the distribution of that bad content, we first have to train our machine learning models to understand what low quality posts are and what high quality posts are. And that's where my role comes in shaping the definition of what a low quality post is, and then managing thousands of humans across the world in manually reviewing newsfeed posts and identifying, based on our definition, which posts are low quality and which are not. And that definition is always evolving, so it's kind of a moving target. So for example, low quality could include posts that have profanity, or clickbaity posts that are just trying to entice you to click on a link to an external kind of crappy website that's trying to like scam you or something. Or it could be posts with vaccine misinformation in it. There's a whole wide range of what we might consider low quality. And then below low quality, even worse than low quality, is violating content, which is kind of a different world that I don't work in. So my role is juggling all the different parties between the humans who are collecting the data and the Facebook teams that want that data to build their machine learning models. And balancing those needs and ultimately getting my newsfeed team the data that they need to train their machine learning models to do whatever they want them to do. So different in Kyle in that I am operations focused and kind of about like managing the different pieces of the project. And I work with people like Kyle who have the more technical background, who is doing that technical work.
All right, thank you. So how did you become interested in the tech industry? Is that something that has been longstanding, or was that cultivated over time, or did you stumble your way into it? Were you invited in? Kyle, how about you? How did you come to tech?
So this is great because my answer is going to be USM for many things. So I think it was, I don't know if it was like 6th grade, 7th grade, like we're going way back. We're going back to the 90s now, I think. So 6th or 7th grade, sometime in middle school, there was, and I don't remember what class it was for, but there was some kind of career project that we did where we had to choose kind of a job title and career type that we were interested in. And I think we were just, I don't know if we got this huge list to choose from. And then we had to go out and find someone who worked in it and like shadow them for a day. I remember, I think this was 6th or 7th grade. I think I chose computer engineering, which in general does have software, but maybe has a little bit more hardware in it as well. And I actually found someone in a company that did computer engineering and shadowed them. I was too young to really understand it, but it kind of snowballed from there because like I knew that even from a young age that I wanted to work in technology and work on like creating, different computer systems or different software systems. And then that snowballed really quickly because I think it was my freshman year, which would have been the 99-2000 year. We had someone at the school, Christian Bear. I don't know if you remember her, right? But she taught computer science, I think, for one of the first times there. And I took every class I could in computer science, including the APs. I had the privilege of already knowing that I would do computer science, at a pretty young age. I just knew that it was something that this is how my brain works, and I want to work in tech. So for me, it was pretty easy. But it was also great that university school opened up not only just the computer science specific classes and things like those career days, but also, I think a lot of the more technical subjects like, physics and, especially calculus and all that stuff, helped give me like a theoretical basis for thinking. And surprisingly, years later, I also decided that foreign language was a big deal because, in software, you have to, if you're going to be a really good software developer, you have to be able to learn languages and systems very quickly. And that's exactly what a spoken language is as well. I mean, if you take out all the culture and stuff, which you shouldn't, because it's good to learn about culture as well, so that you're an interesting person and you can actually like win interviews, right? But aside from that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that don't seem like they match, but technical information is everywhere, and it's not just software and it's not just computers. So just thinking that way is really, really valuable. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So it sounds like you've always had the technical interest and then found other ways to bring other interests along with you. Hannah, was it the same for you? Did you always have an interest in tech, or were you interested in other things and tech came along to you?
I definitely stumbled into it. I went to school at Brown, and the first internships that I did, I came back to Milwaukee. I think I interned at Baird 2 summers in a row, so I was in finance at that point. Then as I, in like my junior year of college, decided, oh no, I want to go into consulting. I think it's going to be a really great first job, which it was. It's a super solid foundation in teaching you how to work well and smart and hard. But after several years of doing consulting, I was traveling 4 days a week, every single week for several years. I hit burnout status. I couldn't do consulting anymore. And I was doing healthcare consulting. So again, not tech related. I was living in San Francisco at the time. My boyfriend, now husband, was working for Google, and a bunch of my friends worked in tech and were really happy in their jobs and encouraged me to poke around at tech opportunities for my next job. So I started applying and interviewing at different tech companies. The more I learned, the more conversations I had, the more I was drawn to the innovation of the tech world, the forward-thinking culture, the super smart people. I hoped for a better work-life balance. And so even though I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, I went through the interview process with Facebook and some other big tech companies and decided to take this job. And I'm so happy that I did. It's been a little over 3 years now. And I really love it. It's playing on the skills that I've developed kind of in my previous job. So I've been able to take my learnings with me from my internships in college and consulting, like things like critical thinking and effective communication and just like strong interpersonal skills and being an organized thinker and an organized executor, all these things these skills that I've built up over my path, even though the industry has changed, those skills have served me well and allow me to kind of pivot and try completely different opportunities in different industries because those skills are needed everywhere.
Great, thank you. All right, so it's there's many ways to the tech industry and through the tech industry. I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit more in specific detail, what are some of the specific opportunities and classes during your college years that really helped you the most for a position in the tech industry? Hannah, you talk a little bit about some of your other jobs and so on, and you both mentioned internships. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and how classes relate to that?
Yeah, I can start. So I didn't take any tech focused classes in college. So all of my subject matter specific expertise in my job has been learned on the job, which is okay to do when you're in a role like mine in operations. But the classes that I did take, like I was alluding to, they prepared me in terms of helping my communication skills and working well with others. I took a lot of history and anthro and poli-sci classes that were heavy on reading and writing. And those classes really kind of improved my ability to take in a lot of information, synthesize it quickly, write about it, talk about it, draw out the key points, all of which are really important in my job. And so just by pursuing the classes that were interesting to me, even though they weren't tech focused, you can still build those skills that give you an avenue into the tech world.
Now, how about you?
Yeah, I actually have to agree with that. It wasn't until I had gotten out of college and started working and having to communicate in dynamic ways, having to work on a team, having to have that background of office politics, or all the complications that come with working for and working with, and in some cases leading different personalities, that, you know, I sort of realized that some of the things that some of the people in the tech world would label as more soft skills are I hate that term, by the way, but like, those are still really important, right? It's kind of like I said before, if you have all this deep stack into technology, you can do these amazing things. But you know, if you're not an interesting person, you're just going to end up being treated like, especially if you're in a technical role, like a commodity. Your time, your developer time, is just going to be accounted for somewhere, right? And then maybe billed to someone or something like that, right? Whereas if you also, you know, work on you know, being interested in some kind of culture or something in humanities or something like that, then not only are you a more interesting person to your coworkers, you also have a life outside of work, and that's super important. So so I wanted to say that the actual question, though, right, is opportunities that prepared me, and I think I already said this a little bit before. For me, you know, aside from the humanities and culture and stuff that USM teaches, I also got a lot of how to think technically, how to process technical information from math and science classes, and a little bit from language classes as well. So all of that was really important. Later on, at classes at the college or university, one of the biggest things actually was we had a series of 2 or 3 classes that were about computer languages themselves, how to write a program that allows you to write programs, how you create a computer language, how a computer interprets that language, and you actually write something that runs a new language. Not only that, but like every other, so that was the big project for the end, but like every other assignment would be in a new computer language, and you had to learn and deliver that project in, I think, like a week or 2 every time. And what that, the term I use is many technical tools in the toolbox, right? If it taught me the kind of theoretical basis for all of these different concepts, that because I was so strong in them, then when it became time to apply it, I just had to learn whatever new system it was that made that possible in that industry, in that context. So I guess what I'm saying is it's a combination of a really good theoretical basis, and then having the people skills, having the general thinking skills, being an interesting enough person to deal with, you know, just unexpected communication and teamwork situations. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this actually is a great setup for my next question. In every college application, and if you don't like the word soft skills in the college admissions, it's called non-cognitive variables, which is even worse. Yeah. But every college application asks, what are you interested in majoring in? And they're just trying to get a sense of where they're going to have staffing needs in that. But it's also something that really forces kids to think, like, what is my major going to be? And there's a lot of pressure around that question. I'm wondering, like, what was your major and how did you pick it? How did you get help picking it? And how much does it matter in what you do now? And anybody can start with that one.
I can start. So on my college application, I put applied mathematics as my major of interest, and I ended up majoring in international relations, and I took maybe 1 math class in college. I completely changed once I got there, because I thought math was what I was best at. I thought that was my strength and that's what I was supposed to do. And then I got to school, and freshman year, I intentionally took classes across a broad array of departments. So like econ, anthro, sociology, history, literature, math, foreign language. So because I wanted to get exposure to as many different subjects as possible. It's also it's just wild. I mean, going from high school, you can choose some electives, but going into college where you can choose almost your whole schedule, it's really exciting, but also overwhelming. So I wanted to get as much exposure as possible. And I found throughout freshman year and a little bit of sophomore that many of the classes that I was drawn to fell under the international relations umbrella. And so I looked more into the major itself and the course requirements, and I was so interested in all of them. Classes like anthropology and global social problems, history of capitalism, globalization and social conflict. These were like some of my favorites that I took sophomore year that really solidified that I wanted to go into international relations. And I was just really excited about the multidisciplinary concentration that allowed me to continue taking classes across many departments. And the big bonus was that they encouraged studying abroad. So I completely 180'd on what I thought I was going to major in. And then coming out of college, I went into strategy consulting with healthcare clients. I've ended up in tech. It's not necessarily like your typical like career that comes out of international relations, but I think it just demonstrates that what you're doing is you're learning skills along the way. You're learning how to think smart and think strategically. And so once you commit to a major, it doesn't set your course for the rest of your life.
Should I just go? Let me tail off that because I have worked with some incredibly talented computer programmers who did not have anything close to a technical degree. And also many, I think like half the developers at Crescendo right now, we hired out of one of the dev code camps, right? Which was just these, I think they're short-term boot camps that sometimes private organizations run them. I think UW Milwaukee has one. And companies like this because they'll hire internships like right out of that. I'm not saying don't go to college. Like I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying like this is a pathway for someone who maybe didn't take anything close to anything that would help them be a computer programmer, and then very quickly transition into, hey, I'm pretty good at coding and I can get hired at least at a junior level, for some of these tech companies. So yeah, in that regard, I'd say just pick something that you really enjoy for your major. And I'm pretty sure that's something that can be changed until pretty late in the college process anyway. For me personally, I think kind of like I already said before, I knew I was going to do computer science pretty early. And that's what I signed up for, and I never changed it. I did get into some branching out by taking minors and things like, I think I did psychology, and we also had an artificial intelligence minor, which I guess is kind of almost the same thing. Just that I took some more, and Hannah pointed this out, like I brought this up before, I took some machine learning things. So I know a little bit about how that technology works, but again, another tool in the toolbox, like I said before. So yeah, I always knew that I wanted to, but for anyone to do computer science, sorry, but like, yeah, for anyone who, thinks that they might, you can easily move over from almost anything. And like I said, I've met so many talented developers that did not have computer science or anything engineering, and they've done great. So, yeah.
Okay. So in addition to the content skills that majors can help with, making that connection to an employer is something else entirely. Can you talk a little bit, and your graduation years are different enough that there have been a lot of changes in how colleges can help students. Can you talk a little bit, and alumni associations, like you guys are helping out our alumni and our current students by just talking about your roles. How the institutions that you attended, how did they help you get connected to jobs when you were students? And are you still connected with them now? Is there still help that they provide?
I'm still unmuted, so I'll just, and my answer is fast and a little bit boring probably, but I felt like, because Case Western is for engineering is kind of a very research focused, they're not great at teaching. So I'm actually not too connected with them. As I kind of said before, I used it as a really deep theoretical basis for understanding how computers work from the very lowest levels of hardware all the way to like how the internet works, and how data flows from one thing to another, just in general. And I got so good at that so that when I actually had to go learn, on the fly in a job, the actual practical skills of making it all be valuable to businesses that I was working for, I was ready for that and didn't have to worry about the theoretical basis. I had classmates who weren't able to make that transition, and they have not done as well. In terms of finding internship experience experiences or opportunities, I also just did that on my own. So yeah, maybe Case wasn't good at that when I was there. But the internet's a great place for job postings, and it's a great place. There's always something to learn or look up, some tutorial on YouTube, or even Google Drive is a great place to help you put together a resume or something like that. So I'm just saying there's a lot of resources out there that are free to learn, and if you keep learning even about those things that you need to land a job, and you're interesting enough to the person who's interviewing you, and you show that you can communicate and stuff, then that's a good place they might pick you up for that junior level job, even though you're still learning. So that's what I would say.
So my experience at Brown, we have a career lab there that's like a physical building on campus that provides career education services, recruiting, and resume help. So I think starting sophomore, junior year of college, I started attending a bunch of info sessions at the career lab with different companies that would come in. And I applied to internships through the career lab. I got practice just talking to and establishing connections with those recruiters. They will schedule interviews with a ton of students during the couple days that they're on campus, these companies. And so I always highly recommend that students do so. Even it's just really good practice, and you can't have enough interview practice, especially for your first internships or your first job. Just good to get the reps in. I also one summer went to Dartmouth Tuck Business Bridge program. It's basically like a business school crash course over the summer at Dartmouth Business School. And it's very similar. That was even more intensive in terms of bringing employers in to do focused recruiting. They had career fairs, so you get to go around and talk to a bunch of different companies. That is where I first started interviewing for my consulting job, and kind of continued that relationship on and that conversation going with that recruiter, and eventually was hired out of college to start there. So highly recommend taking advantage of those opportunities, because you never know what you'll stumble upon. And I'm still connected to Brown in the way that people will reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email, or be connected through mutual friends some way. And you just kind of make a connection basically based on having both graduated from the same college. It's just a network that you're built into once you go to a specific school. And so I'll have conversations all the time with recent grads and work with them on their applications, provide referrals if they're interested in a role at Facebook. And so, it's a big, great network to be a part of even after you've graduated.
Right, thank you. I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about the new USM grads who are soon going to be launching? What advice do you have for those USM students who are interested in gaining a career in the tech field? What should they be looking for 5 to 10 years from now? What skills do you recommend?
Okay. So it's completely different now than it was back when, I was learning computer science at not only USM, but also at Case. In that there's been a real big surge, I think, in the value of open source technology, which is just different programs that you can download from the internet and just run on your own. Back in high school, we were just messing around with some development environment. I think it was the Microsoft one. I think it was Visual Studio or something like that, or Eclipse or whatever. And we were just writing programs that would have just text output. But now you can download and run open source databases. You can download and run a lot of really interesting business software. Not only that, but if that is a little bit too boring, it's actually pretty easy to learn, I think mostly for free, how to program video games even, right? So there's a lot of fun and even flashy things that you can do. There's even starting points like there's an open source project called Snap, and I think that's by Berkeley. I'm not sure if it was. It's by some tech college. And this is a intro to visual programming. You can Google it, I think Snap with an exclamation point. And if you just go and play around and learn how these things all work together, I think that's something that you can do now that you never could do before. There's a lot of self-teaching that you can do. And if you keep learning, because technology keeps changing and evolving and adding new things, maybe you might end up being a part of one of those projects and create something new that has a lot of value for a lot of people. So I've already talked about I forget what Mrs. Zarwell called the soft skills, but and I've already talked about the theoretical skills that you can stack if you want to get super technical like I did. But then with all of the just Google it, search for it on YouTube. There will be a ton of tutorials. I'm sure there's a bunch of classes out there as well to learn different things in tech, and you can get a head start by putting as many tools in that toolbox even before you get to later in college or your first internship. So that's what I would say.
If I can ask a very quick follow-up question. Speaking of questions, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the broadcast. For students who are attending, if you do have a question that you would like to ask either of our panelists, please do enter it in the Q&A because we will get to it at the end of the program. But the quick follow-up question that I have for you, Kyle, is that kind of self-teaching and self-learning, would you say that that is a common expectation of people in the field?
For people who I work with, yes. In fact, if you didn't, especially the company culture at Crescendo, and this hasn't been the case for every company that I worked at, but Crescendo is very much like a sink or swim place. It's not that you can't ask for help. We use Slack, which is just a office place collaboration tool, so you can create channels. Just like if anyone's used Discord or something like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's always possible to kind of, it's like you have to find a balance between asking for help and being self-sufficient. But I don't think at the current company that I work at that you can survive without being very, very strong in self-learning. Because they're hiring you because they need more developer bandwidth. They need more they need someone to take some of the load that they have that's too high, and that's why they put out that position and hired you for it. And so yes, you have to ask for help and you have to be supported by your team, but you also have to take a lot of time and self-learn the systems that company is working on, because sometimes maybe you were put on a new project and no one knows that, and you have to create that institutional knowledge for yourself as well. So yeah, I think I went on a few different lines there, but yes, I don't think in my company that you'd be able to keep your job if you didn't do that.
Great, thank you. All right, Hannah, I'm sorry. What are your recommendations for students who want to get involved in tech?
Okay, so my big piece of advice would be, don't assume that the tech world is only suited for coders and engineers and those with technical backgrounds, coming from someone who's in tech without a technical background. The tech world is filled with opportunity for policymakers and researchers, lawyers, communications experts, designers, teachers, salespeople, the list goes on. So as you go through high school, college, your first internships and jobs, focus on figuring out and improving what your strengths are And strengths should not only be the skills and the types of activities that you're good at, but it should be the things that you enjoy doing, that energize you, that make you excited to work and get stuff done. And then as you focus on improving those strengths, just be really, really good at what you do well. And then you can seek out job opportunities in the tech world that align with your strengths. And you'll be the best candidate because you've built out those strengths rather than trying to fit into some other mold. So, for example, for me, the skills in my role, which I mentioned earlier, I just want to quickly touch on critical thinking, being able to set clear goals, analyze information, identify trends and data, evaluate issues strategically, make smart, informed decisions, being an organized project manager, being able to outline all the different parts of a project, the tasks, the deadlines, the dependencies, the risks, the challenges, the people, and kind of manage that throughout the life cycle of a project. Being an effective communicator, articulating problems and solutions really clearly, getting along with people, working well with a diverse array of people, being a leader. All these things are really important in my role, and I'm not mentioning anything technical, so I just want to share that perspective of you can find your way into the tech world without that technical background.
All right, excellent.
Can I tail off that for just 1 second? Because at Crescendo, only about half, I think we have like 120 people, and only about, maybe it's 150, I don't know, but only about half are actually developers and engineers. The other half are kind of like Hannah says, we have project managers, we have technical writers, we have artistic designers, and they all just on the job will learn the framework for what we do, and they're still very, very in tune with the technology. They just don't write the code, right? And so all of that is 100% true. I just wanted to say that because it directly like kind of proves that point. There's a ton of opportunities beyond just coding for sure.
Right. Well, tech has been so much in the news that we've all become profoundly dependent on it during the pandemic. And we've seen some of the elasticity to it, that it can be used to solve more problems than we knew how to create until the pandemic forced us to. And with tech taking on all kinds of new roles and developing its own new capabilities, there are all kinds of opportunities for how it might grow, but there's also a lot of challenges that go along with it. And Hannah, I imagine that just in your role in Facebook, you're dealing with a lot of this right now. It's been an interesting 2 years. So I'm wondering, like, what are some of those really big 30,000 foot challenges and opportunities that you foresee growing in the big problems we have to solve coming in the years ahead? Small question, I know.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially at Facebook, there is a massive list of challenges that we face, all of which are opportunities to make tech better, safer, more impactful. Big top two, safety and privacy, which you probably already hear about in the news all the time, and we talk about in our company all the time. Safety in terms of physical and mental health of our social media users. There's a lot of work to be done there, and we need to be responsible about bringing in the experts to lend their expertise and help guide the path forward for a safer social media ecosystem. And at the same time, maintain privacy of our users, which sometimes is in tension with that. And then I guess the third thing would be really theoretical, what are the rules of social media? Because there is no set of guidelines that we're all following in the tech world. That doesn't exist yet because it's been the wild, wild west for so long. And so hopefully we will start to get to a place where there's more regulation and consistent guidelines of how to have like a healthy tech ecosystem. But this is why even though it's challenging working at a controversial company, I am proud to be on an integrity team at Facebook who's chipping away at these challenges day after day and, trying to make newsfeed a safer, better place for our users.
So challenges, I 100% agree with privacy. I think that, and even at Facebook and other social medias that you would use, there's always some kind of marketing thing going on in the background that that there's data to gather that people can make money off of. So I mean, that's how they keep the lights on. So you still want that data to be available to even in situations where you want to target certain kinds of content to a person to make it more relevant to them. Totally makes sense. But at the same time, I mean, I think there's a lot to think about ethically as you work in tech to say, okay, is this the right thing that I want to expose? Like, what's the balance between ease of use and how much data you have to give up for something to work right. Even bigger on challenges for me, I think I would point out would be cybersecurity. Often in the news all the time, you're going to see data breaches, or I don't think kids get these letters, but adults all the time will get letters from companies saying, your data has been compromised. Here's a free sign up to a privacy service for a year or something. I've even in one of my jobs, we had a multi-million-dollar credit card breach, and it was for no other reason than one of our vendors was sloppy. And there's nothing that we could have done about it. But recently in the news, there was this, even in mainstream news, I think this hit, there's a vulnerability that we in tech have been working on. It's around an open source thing called Log4j. I don't know if Hannah's heard of this or not. But this is anything where a company is running something with Java would have been affected by this. Within I don't know, an hour of this being announced, all of our big companies were being attacked. And this attack could take over servers. So, as I mentioned before, working in pharmaceuticals, that's healthcare privacy, that's a big deal. Working in finance, it affects people's money. That's a big deal. People could lose a lot of money if we don't, really quickly react. So the challenges, and I guess that's an opportunity. If you get good at that, you can react really fast and keep people's technology safe if you're working in that environment, right? So I guess that's cybersecurity presents an opportunity as well as a challenge. Other than that, as Mrs. Zarwell said, in opportunities with the pandemic pushing people to innovate and necessity being the mother of invention, there's always going to be room for someone to come up with or work on or be a part of pushing forward a new technology or a new way of doing things. And I mean, I think if you if you listen to everything that we've said, I mean, this is something that there's a lot of opportunity to work in. So, yeah.
Thank you. So, and my final question for you is, as the industry is developing its ethics and its modes of practice and so on, and dispensing the wisdom that is coming up in various pockets of the industry, what are some of the professional organizations that you're involved in? Kyle, you spoke at length about some of the self-teaching that can take place just to learn like hard skills. But are there different organizations that you're involved in, other ways that you stay up to date, that you continue to be a student?
Yeah, so conferences are great because I think in a lot of the different parts of tech that I've worked in, there's been a conference for the specific thing that I work on at that time. So at one point that was digital repositories for university libraries. At another time, I've been to conferences that just deal with iPhone development, for instance, so development on Apple platforms. So that one was MacTech, I think. I don't remember the organization for digital repositories, but and then there's more general ones that actually have not only conferences, and I don't know if they're virtual conferences now, they might be, but they also have journals. So some of the big ones are ACM and I think IEEE. So I've done those before. And then what was another example? It gets even, so I focus on software. There's the idea of DevOps, which kind of sits between software and hardware. And It's someone who's kind of like they run the servers to support the development cycles that we do. So it's a little bit more like, hey, how do I make this software run? How do I, streamline the build process for this software? I actually got involved with an organization that did that, and I went to that conference, even though it wasn't directly relevant, just to make like my general knowledge more valuable. And I think that that organization was called LISA, so LISA. So yeah, ACM, LISA, IEEE, MacTech. I don't know if they're still around or not, but really, all of these places have blogs or magazines or journals or something. And I think even I've gotten into, for a while, I was looking at an organization that was into like business intelligence and data mining. You can get into things that have to do with search engines. I'm sure you can get into things that have to do with social media, machine learning, whatever. So they're all out there. They all have blogs and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to find them and get involved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hannah, how about you?
I'm really lucky working at Facebook. We have a really strong like internal education programming. So I take advantage of the different professional development courses that we have there. There's a bunch of kind of different avenues that you can take that, whether you're in a technical role or not. There's subject matter specific curriculum. We have Q&As every single week with either Mark Zuckerberg or someone else from the C-suite, just to like talk about pressing issues and priorities in our company and in the tech world in general. For integrity specifically, every half we have these big integrity summits with presentations across integrity teams at Facebook. So there's a ton going on internally, and if you work at one of those big tech firms, they have the resources to put all of that together. So it's really nice to be able to take advantage of that.
All right, thank you. So I think you've answered all of the questions very very thoroughly and very helpfully. Thank you very much. So for those who are in attendance, if you do have any questions, please do pop them into the Q&A. I'll give it a minute or so, and I'd like to thank our panelists very much, Kaliebe and Hannah Lubar. Thank you both for sharing your expertise, your insights, your advice, and your experiences with us. We are very, very lucky.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing anything coming up in the Q&A. Thank you for answering my questions and my follow-up questions with that. And I suppose with that, we will wrap this up. But for those of you watching, if questions come up later on, please do email them to me at szarwell@usm.org, and I will be happy to pass them on. And Kyle and Hannah, thank you very, very much. And I wish you a very happy new year. And on behalf of the Internship and Shadowing Committee, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck if you're going to do tech to everyone.
Thank you very much. Well, with this kind of insight, they've got wisdom, which beats luck. So thank you. Have a great night. Happy New Year.